our entire webinar and outreach team. On the slides here, you see our pictures, and you see Sarah there on the left, myself in the middle, and our outreach coordinator and Fish and Wildlife Service liaison, Erin Posthumus, who's not with us today, but she definitely helped us put together a lot of the content for this webinar and a lot of the other information that you guys frequently receive from us. So that is your team, and we're all available to answer questions at any time today or anytime in the future as you get started with Nature's Notebook. So just to get acclimated to what we're talking about, if you're new to Nature's Notebook and you're new to the topic of phenology, this is just a quick overview of what it is we study and why we study it. So phenology is something that most people are already familiar with if you pay attention at all to what's going on outside you, outside in the environment, the seasonal changes that we experience. And the technical definition is on there. It's the study of the timing of recurring plant and animal life cycle stages, or what we call phenophases, and their relationship to environmental conditions. So everything in nature is cued to move through its life cycle events by something that happens in the environment, whether it's temperature, whether it's moisture, whether it's day length. All of it has to do with phenology. So you can see some examples there. When trees bloom and bud, when they leaf out and flower, hibernation, migration, and insect emergence is an example of phenology. And the reason why we study it is because it's very easy to observe. All of these life cycle events are things that you can see and record when you see them. So they're things that we can see in nature. And they're things that people have been paying attention to for a very long time. Oftentimes people were paying attention to it just because they were needing to survive, and paying attention to the environment for many, many centuries was something that people had to do just to live. So our network is the USA National Phenology Network, and it was established in 2007. The goal was to create a standardized data set for use in multiple types of research. So our founders were interested in standardizing the way these phenological observations were collected so that they could be used by people to better understand climate change. And since that time, phenology has been named as one of the key indicators of climate change by the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change and the US-EPA. Several other organizations also use phenology to track how species are responding as our climate is warming. And so we wanted to make sure that everybody was doing that in the same way so that the data are understandable. We wanted to also make that data available to anybody who was interested. So if it was a researcher or a scientist or a land manager that was collecting phenology observations, we wanted to make sure that they could get their data out and that they could also see other people's data. And we also are interested in creating models for use in scientific research. Secondarily, we're interested in encouraging people of all ages and backgrounds to observe and record phenology. So that's where my role as the education coordinator comes in. I'm really interested in getting people engaged in the outdoors. And since phenology is something really easy to observe and understand, it's great to engage people in their environment in that way and also teach them the scientific process. So the way that we work with phenology observations is through our citizen science program called Nature's Notebook. And here's the website for that. If you're not familiar, you can go right to that website instead of going to our USA-NPN website first. Basically, it's the interface where people can track and record their phenology information at sites that they choose, whether they're in their backyard or if they're participating at a park or a nature center or at a school or a university. That's where they enter the information. And you can also get your information back out. So you can look at your data that you enter and you can look at everyone else's data in there as well. This is a quick overview of what we have in our database, whether or not you're interested in the actual data or you're interested in creating another site. Today we have about 6,600 active observers that participate in Nature's Notebook, and that means that they've contributed at least one or more observations to our database on a reoccurring schedule. We have about 7,800 active sites across the United States, so all of those data points are really valuable for researchers so that they can get information from many locations across the country with number of species. Today we have about 1,000 species and we're getting ready to add another 100 species to our database. Most of those species have been in the database since 2009, so that's when most of our data started coming in. And the way that we add the species is either by partner request or species that are known, species that are indicators of phenology research. So if people were using that in some sort of phenology observation program in the past, we started with those and then we add them as partners request things. Today we have about 6.6 million records in our database as well. And we have lilac data from 1956 for a long-term citizen science program called the Cloned Lilac Program. And the data in that particular study is now used to better understand the onset of spring. And so we'll show you on our website in a little bit where you can find some of this information if you're interested. This is what we actually capture. This is an example of some phenophase data that we look at. We also encourage people to do long-term monitoring of the same individual plants through time. So once you select a site, create a site and collect observations on particular plants that are tagged in a location, we're interested in having really long-term data on plants in one location or more locations so that we can really see how that phenology is changing annually, seasonally, and through time. The examples on the left are the different phenophase protocols that we capture. This is just a general example, and each of the protocols that are designed for each of the species are a little bit different depending on the type of plant or the type of animal. And we also want people to tell us if they see something, if they don't see something, or if they're not sure. So that's why we have the yes, the no, or the question mark on the data sheet. We encourage people to say if they're not sure about something because we'd rather know that somebody is watching that plant and they're not sure what they're seeing rather than entering incorrect observations. We also want people to tell us if they don't see something, and that's where it's important to observe something through time, because if we know that somebody's watching that plant and they've reported a no on it for a few months and then all of a sudden they report a yes on a phenophase, then researchers can be a lot more certain of when the phenophase began rather than just noticing that somebody entered a yes in the database on this particular day. So we have the capacity to do that. We recommend that people go out at least weekly, especially during the active season. So depending on where you are in the country, for example, if you're in the Northeast, obviously the springtime is a really active time of year when plants are leafing out and things are warming up. Same thing in the fall. And here in the Southwest, our monsoon season is really an active time because a lot of the plants are cued in nature to move to their next phase based on monsoon rains and moisture in the environment. So we want people to make sure that we're catching the beginning of those phenophases as they occur. And then again, if you're uncertain and you're not sure what you're looking at, you can always tell us you're not sure. Really what this involves is you have to be able to identify plants. You have to be able to identify the particular parts of the plant, like the leaves, the flowers, and the fruits. And then you have to be able to identify some really interesting characteristics about them, all of which are described in our phenophase definitions. When people are just getting started, we allow them to observe as much or as little as they feel comfortable with as well. So I always recommend people who are really just getting started with phenology observations to just look at the leaves, the flowers, and the fruits. And you can see each of those categories in different colors are kind of around that subset of phenophases. But you could just say yes to the leaves, you could say yes to the open flowers, and you could say yes to the ripe fruits if you knew how to identify them on your particular plant. And then you could put question marks for the rest of it, and that is good enough until you are more comfortable with what you're seeing and you're more comfortable with your individual plant. The same thing is true with animals. We allow people to capture whether or not they see something active in the environment, so that's presence and absence. But we also want to know a little bit more about what the animal is doing in its environment. So you can see the examples here for this common loon. We want to know if they're active, we want to know if they're feeding, we want to know if they're calling or mating. We would like to know if there's a nest they're sitting on, and we also are interested to know if the individuals are at a feeding station. So depending on what the research is used for, those details about the animal can be really important. And it also allows us to compare some of these phenophases with the plant phenology if it's a plant that, or if it's an animal that uses a plant in the environment. And this is a quick example of what a phenology calendar might look like with animal phenophases and deciduous plant phenophases. So So you can see in this example, if we're thinking about a deciduous tree, some of the phenophases might overlap with each other because there are leaves on the plant, but in the beginning of the season, there might be breaking leaf buds. The leaves are going to be increasing in size. And then at the end of the season, you would note that the leaves are changing color. Again, depending on the species, the flowers and the flower buds and the open flowers might occur while there are leaves on the tree. And the same thing with the fruits. And then if you're capturing animal phenology data with it, you can see that maybe a hummingbird would be interested in visiting an open flower. And so knowing when those two things are occurring at the same time is helpful to anybody who's interested in getting a really clear picture of the site phenology and the ecosystem information. So we've got a lot of information on our website. We've got new models that are incorporating Nature's Notebook data to predict when leaves will change color in the fall. We know that phenology helps to protect the expansion of extremely allergenic ragweed. So phenology research is being used in a lot of health forums as well. And we also know that because of climate change and other conditions in regional areas, deciduous trees might be leafing out weeks earlier than under future warming. And what we've done is we've taken several of the journal articles that we noticed that are coming out either using our data or other data, and we break them down into a very understandable summary that Erin actually is really great at doing. And this website you see there with the ending that says vignettes, that'll take you right to the page where we have all of the highlights of these particular studies. And you can print out that information, and if you work with volunteers or something like that, you can share that with people who are interested in knowing exactly what the data in our National Phenology Database are telling us. So that's a little bit of the overview, and one thing I want to share before I turn it over to Sarah to give us a tour of the Nature's Notebook Citizen Science program is the fact that we allow people to either make observations individually in their backyard, or now we have the capacity for groups to participate together where multiple people are contributing observations to the same site. And so here's just a quick overview of what that means. When we create a group site in our database, you're a partner group in there, and your group has as many sites as you need to establish in your location. We generally recommend that depending on the size of your site, we keep individual sites to about 15 acres or less, so that kind of mirrors the size of a pixel on a satellite image, in case the people using the end data are interested in comparing the on-the-ground phenology observations with satellite imagery for studying green up or something like that in the spring season. So you can have as many sites attached to your group as you like, and you can have as many individuals who are contributing observations to your group as well. People can all do that from their own Nature's Notebook account, so people don't need to share accounts. That was something that people were doing in the past, but I think it's a lot easier to have people individually contribute from their own accounts. And anybody that owns a group site is considered an administrator, and they have the ability to add plants to the list. They can reorder the plants, they can add animals. And this is a way that a lot of school groups, botanical gardens, nature centers are using Nature's Notebook so that they can use it in their outreach and education programs and in conjunction with some of the scientific research that might be happening at the site. Today we have over 400 active partner sites. So if you are an individual and you're looking to see if there is already a group near you that is requesting people help them with their Nature's Notebook observations, you might want to take a look at our list of group sites and see if there's something near you. Or certainly you can create another group site if you are a site administrator and you want to participate in Nature's Notebook and encourage people to do that at your location. Okay, so again, here's our contact information. We'll put that up at the end. But what I'm going to do now is turn this over to Sarah, and she's going to give us an overview of how to use Nature's Notebook. So give me 1 minute to switch it.
All right, everybody, I'm going to start out with a little poll. I just want to see how long you guys have been using Nature's Notebook. So if you'll see that poll launch on your screen. If you would answer. Okay, I'm thinking it's not being shown. Let me see.
Yeah, I don't know if I can see your screen, Sarah.
Okay.
I made you the presenter.
I don't have the option to share my screen yet.
Oh, technology.
Can you see if you can launch the poll then from
I think I can. Let me see. I don't know if I can see it. Right, it looks like it's connecting to your screen. This reminds me of my days when I was a radio DJ and you were never supposed to have dead air. So
I'm sorry.
I could do song and dance. Let's see. Sarah, do you want to just come over and use my computer?
I guess I don't know why we can't share the screen.
Here, why don't you just pop over here? And I will.
I'm going to hop on my computer and answer questions from there. All right, everybody, I will warn you, I am not a Mac person and I am now on a Mac. So bear with us.
She's going to do great. I'll help her out. Okay. Can you all see my screen now? Somebody just type in yes if you can see it, because I think I can see it. Awesome. Okay. Cool.
Okay. Let me move this out of the way. So, welcome back to Nature's Notebook. If you haven't been using the program over the winter, we understand. So you come back to the Nature's Notebook page. It may look a little different. We've got a new set of pictures, a new tree, a new goal for this year. We want to get 2 million records this year. We'd like you to help us get there. We need you to help us get there. We're already at 9% and it's only February. We can definitely get through 2 million records for the year. So we're going to go right into it. At the top of your page, you see the login. If you do not remember your login, you can email. We're logged in as Lorianne. Let's log out as Lorianne. She's got a lot of sites, and I don't want to confuse anyone.
Yes, please don't.
So if you don't remember your password, just feel free to shoot me an email. We can do a password reset for you. It's very simple. So you logged in. You go to your observation deck right here. It brings you back to the observation deck screen. Now, it usually takes a moment for your Phenology calendar to load. It is a new feature that we designed to help people visualize their own data. Depending on the amount of data you have, it does take a moment, so mine is trying to find the proper things that it wants to show. You can also customize your calendar or look at this tab and go to see your badges. Now, these are badges. These are kind of like a reward system for things that you have done that we have said, great job. These are other ones. The ones that are grayed out are ones that you haven't completed yet. So you can see which things you can do to get all your badges, as well as the ones you've already achieved. So those are great. We're rolling some new ones out this spring, so keep an eye out. You may have new badges coming your way. So then you scroll down in your observation deck. Now, if you're part of a group, which many of you are, one of your group sites will populate here on default in the My Sites list on the left-hand side of your screen. So if you're part of a group, you will see their group sites here. I'm part of one of our local groups, and you see their group here. Then on the other next column in, you see the plants and animals that are available at your group site. Scrolling down to see all of them, as well as the animals here at the bottom. The next column is the organism details. This is where you see the individual plant, the species profile, and the phenophase definition sheet and PDF if you would like those to print to carry with you in the field. If you click through your list, you see the different items, different species, selecting those. And then in this final column, this is where you would go to enter your observation data and to download your own data. So let's start by going to My Sites. We'll walk through the whole process. I wanted to add a new site. So I go here, I choose My Site, let that window load with my proper sites. Then you go Add a New Personal Site. Clicking this link brings you to a map where you can select a place by dropping a pin on the map. Let's see if I can find somewhere. This probably close to Tucson. Whoop, nope, map did not load properly. So you can zoom way in and drop a pin if you know physically where you are, or type the address. So I'm going to add our new office here in Tucson. Oh, and it got us right there. So now you see the pin is dropped on the proper location. You also need a site name. So I'm going to say work. And then you can name it whatever you'd like, backyard, front yard. Then scrolling down here to the bottom, we ask some additional questions. Now, like with the rest of our phenophase questions, we only want you to answer these if you feel comfortable doing so. There's also this little question mark, gives you a little bit better description on what it means when we're asking a rural or other. There's also a comment section here at the bottom for you to type more information that you feel we would need, or researchers that are going to look at your data. So you can fill this in if you feel inclined and if you feel comfortable. Then if you skip over to the next tab up here, we ask about the plants and about the animals. So there's just a little bit more information that you could fill out, or once you fill that out, or if you feel uncomfortable doing so, go ahead and leave it blank and click the bottom here, Create Site. It's processing. Okay, so apparently I already have a work site. So this will be the new office. So there it is, proper location on the map. The elevation and longitude and latitude are filled in by USGS, so you don't have to worry about that. I'm going to leave this information blank, and I'm going to say Create Site. So then it brings you back. So see there my observation deck, my calendar loaded with information. We'll go back to that at the end of the presentation. So then I go down here. So I see my new office site. So there are no plants and animals listed. I have to add those species. So the next step, let's add a plant. We click Add or Edit Plants. It brings us to a new screen. If you have already checked out our plant and animal profiles and know what's in your area, you can do so. Otherwise, by going to our profile page, you can see, sort by common name, by scientific name, by what's available in your state. You can filter by state. Or if you were interested in a certain kind of plant, deciduous for instance. So I've set mine to Arizona. I'm going to sort and I'm going to say all. Show me everything that's available from our over 1,000 species that's in our system. And I'm going to say search. And this pulls up a long list of every individual available. So let's say I'm looking, we've got a sagebrush out front. So I open that and I go to the species profile page. This has more information as well as a picture. Tells you what it looks like, why observe, where the species is found, and then information on the individual phenophase. Now every species, both plant and animals, on our website has one of these, giving you more in-depth information to help you become a better citizen scientist and increase your own knowledge. So once you are comfortable with this is exactly the plant that you see, you can also print a data sheet from here. So then going back to your tab where you are adding your new plant, you can start to type the plant name. You can use common or scientific name. So when you start typing, you'll get a drop-down list. This is pulling everything that has that in its name. So we're going to look through here. There it is, big sagebrush. And then you get the chance to nickname your plant. Our system auto-populates a nickname, but you can change this to say bush at stair. So this is the bush, this is the bottom of the stairwell on the outside of our new building. So that's why I'm nicknaming it as such. Then you can say if it's a patch, hovering over this area, this question mark lets you know what we mean when we say patch. So reading that definition, no, that doesn't apply. Then you can again answer some more questions if you feel comfortable. Is it in the shade? It's in mostly sun. Wild? I don't know when it was planted, so I'm going to say unknown. I don't know if it's watered, I don't know if it's fertilized, I don't know its gender, and I don't know its planting date. If it's something that you planted in your yard, you may know the answer to these questions. If not, just leave them blank. Again, you have the option to enter comments, and then at the bottom, save this plant. It saves the plant. You see it here in the list on the left of your screen, and we're allowing you to then add another plant. So let's add a second plant right here with this link. Brings you to a new species form, and we're going to add the saguaro. So you start typing. I'm trying to think of the scientific name for saguaro, and I can't.
You can type it either way, but it starts with a C. It's nice that it allows you to start typing something, either the common name or
there it is.
The scientific name, and then you click on it just like that and fills it in.
So it's nicknamed it Saguaro 1, and that's fine for me because there's only one saguaro. Again, I don't know. It is in full sun. I don't know the rest of these questions, so I leave them blank, and I click Save Plant. And here on the left side of the screen, you see both my plants now added. So then we're going to go back to our observation deck, and I'm going to work on adding our animals. So scrolling down, we see we have the 2 plants added, and then we're going to go to the animals. So the second link here brings you to a new page where you see our animals. So again, you can filter by state, by species group, the type, if you're interested to narrow down, or partner groups. Some of the partners have specific plants or animal species that they're interested in. So I'm going to sort again by state of Arizona, and see it narrowed down the list some. It's quite a long list to filter through still. And I'm going to say we're looking for all mammals. So I have 2 filters, Arizona and mammals, and here's our list. So what would we possibly see out front in campus? I know we've seen some deer mice, so I found North American deer mouse. I highlight it and I click Add to Checklist. That then moves it onto my list. Say I added all of them by clicking this top button. You can go remove all to take them all back off. So then we go back, oh, I did really want the North American deer mouse. And we've got white-footed deer mouse, add to checklist. North American deer mouse, add to checklist. And let's say the prairie dog, add to checklist. Now, oops, wait, I don't think, here, let's add a coyote. And then say, well, no, I've never really seen a coyote, so let's remove that single species. So I removed it. So see, I have my 3 animals right there. I scroll to the bottom and I say Save Checklist. That then submits those animals back to your checklist, going back to the observation deck. Now you can see my 3 animal species there as well. But let's say you don't like the order of how your plants and animals are organized. You want either your plants to be in order of the way you would see them, such as walking along a trail, or you want your animals first, or you want them intermittently. You can go Sort Plants and Animals. This then, let's put our animals first, so you can organize moving them up, or put that one first, and then click Submit to save the new order. So there's your new order, plants at the bottom. So getting ready to go outside, then you could click Print Field Data Sheets, and it asks you, what do you want to print? Do you want to print the cover sheet, an animal checklist? And do you want a day-by-day, which looks like this, where you have multiple species, only 1 day of observations on a single page? Or do you want species by species, which has several dates for 1 species at a time per page? So this allows you to use the same page multiple times, whereas the day-by-day allows you to have 1 date on a single page for multiple species. And then do you also want the phenophase definition sheets? Those are what you'd find on the species profile, giving you a little bit more information on the species and the phenophases. Those are helpful to carry out in the field with you when you're getting to be more comfortable with your plants, and if you want a little bit of a backup to see the in-depth description of really what we're asking for. So you can say Create All, and then click Create, and it generates a PDF that goes to download.
The download is on the bottom.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So then you open your data sheets, and they should not look like that. Okay, I'm not sure. They download as a PDF, so then you open your PDF and print those out.
Click on the arrow that's up on the browser. See where there's the down arrow next to the toolbar?
Yes.
Click on that and see if it gives you the PDF. No, it's downloading it in HTML.
Yeah, it's downloading it in HTML, so I'm not sure. We'll figure that out. You should get a PDF, and you're able to print that from your computers. So you can also view the species profile online, print the data sheets from here, or just print the definition sheets for each individual by clicking that one and then doing it here in this 3rd column, printing singly if you would like only one at a time. So you are also able to, for plants, when you go to edit your plants, say one of your plants, you want to add an image. You can add an image by by clicking the Edit Plants, highlighting the proper plant, going down to Add an Image, browsing for your file to add that image to your species. Then, when you upload your file, you will see a picture here, as well as back at your observation deck. This is handy for groups that have questions on which specific plant that they are observing. You can add an individual photo of that exact individual, and it shows up right here in your main observation deck for all your users at that site. Now, this can only be done for plants. As animals, it's very hard to tell if you are seeing the same individual species for most individuals. So let's pretend we went out to the field, we printed our data sheets using the print field data sheets, we printed our cover sheet, our animal checklist, as well as the phenophase definitions. We went out, we observed, we recorded our observations, and now we've come back to the computer to enter our data. So with your data sheet in front of you, you go over to the fourth column and say Enter my observation data. It then loads a new window which corresponds to the data on your printed data sheet. So you fill out the date and time. Let's say we went out today. You can also enter the time by hitting this clock right next to you. Then we ask a few more questions, such as your time spent observing, your time spent in travel. Hovering over those gives you a little more text on what we ask. So let's say we were outside for 30 minutes, and we spent all of 5 minutes traveling there because we're observing right here at our office, right out front. Then they want to know your animal observation methods. You'll see this on your animal cover sheet. Time spent looking, let's say we looked about 10 minutes while we were out there, and then it wants to know your animal survey method. Incidental, that it just happened to cross your path while you were out there. Stationary, you stood in one spot and surveyed the area. Walking, if you walked through the terrain to see if you could find an animal, or an area search, standing in one place. So let's just say incidental, we just kind of wanted to see what was there while we were looking at our plants. Scrolling down, then it asks for snow. For most of you back east and up north, this is something that you guys get to fill in. For me, it's always been a no, a 0, and a no. We don't have snow much often down here in Tucson. So then you see your list of animals right here. You can go open all, give it a second to load, and then it will pop open all the observation windows for all of your species. So we can start here at the top. We did not see any deer mice. So you can circle the no's one by one, or this handy button, circle all no, selects all the no's. Did we see any deer mice? Uh-oh. Why did your screen zoomed way in?
Let me see.
Hold on.
Let's see. Well,
let's open a new tab and just go back to it.
Yeah, let's open a new tab.
All right. So we're going to go back into it, back to my observation deck. Letting it load, coming back down. Okay, so see my group site loaded on default, so I got to go back to my sites, find the new office, my correct site, go to Enter Observations. Now, it didn't submit those observations. So if you had previous observations, you would see this first column would populate with the last date that you had entered data. So since nothing's been submitted, nothing is here in this first left column. So we're going to start. We went out today. We went out at 11. We were out there for 30 minutes. And you can also change this to hours. Time spent in travel, all of whopping 5 minutes. No snow. All right, so that information matches what we have on our printed checklist. So we're going back to the animals, and you see the date and the time for your observations here in the top, because that correlates to the one that you chose up top when you submitted the date. So we're going to say circle all no. We didn't see the white-footed deer mouse, so we circle all no. But we did see a black-tailed prairie dog. So we're going to say yes here, and then it asks how many. This is the intensity question that we only say that you could fill in if you feel comfortable doing so. But I saw 1, so we're saying 1. I didn't see it feeding. I don't know if it was young or not. Recently born, this hovering over gives you the definition, a little more notification. So I'm not sure if it was a young individual or not. So I'm going to say question mark. And I am going to answer that one that I saw, I'm not sure. And did I see dead individuals? No, I did not. You can enter comments here such as, unsure if it was a youth. That then gets submitted once you click the bottom when we're done. So we're doing the bush at the stairwell. We're going to say, did we see young leaves? Yes. Did we see leaves? Yeah, there were still leaves on it. Colored leaves? No, there were not. So then, falling leaves? No, there were no falling leaves. Did you see flowers or flower buds? No, not yet. So if we didn't see flowers or flower buds, we probably didn't see any open flowers, so we can say no. No open flowers means no pollen, no fruits, no ripe fruits, and no seeds. Now here in this column are the intensity values. These, when you pop open that question, you can say young leaves. How many did you see on that plant? You can estimate for larger trees and give a general count. I'm going to say 100 to 1,000. And did I see young leaves? That was for young leaves. So actually, let's say about 100. And for leaves, then it's a different intensity value. How much of the plant was covered? So about 94%, pretty much all of the plant was covered. So I'm going to say 94%. You also have the option of leaving it blank, saying no answer to that. So that looks good for that. We scroll down to our saguaro. And as you can see, the saguaro has a different set of intensity of phenophase questions. All the species have different phenophase questions, anywhere from 3 to 12 different questions. So this one, do you see flowers or flower buds? No, I didn't see any. And that means no, no open flowers. No flowers on the saguaro means no fruits, no ripe fruits, and no fruit drop. So then we can go here to submit observations down at the bottom. Click submit. Give it a second to load. And here you will see, when you return to your observation deck, this grayed out column in the left side shows your last observation date. So then if you went out a second time, you can come in right here and put in the date and begin your observations, answering those phenophase questions, answering the intensity questions if you feel comfortable. Also, note, it will not allow you to enter future dates. You haven't observed in the future, even if you planned on it, that's great, but it won't let you populate dates in the future. See, it says invalid date. So from there, we're going to go back to our observation deck. And you can see now my observation data is higher because we submitted those observations. Clicking this download my data gives you an Excel file of all your data, all the information you've entered, the dates, the times you spent observing, the yes, no's. So downloading that, you can look at your own data. Or if you want to check if your data was entered, such as if you entered it on a mobile app and you want to see that it's really in your account, you come back here, go to the enter observation data, using these blue arrows, let's do this for a site that I have past data.
And then Sarah, once you show this, let me read some of the questions.
Okay.
Because we just have about 7 more minutes left, and I've been answering them, but we can just highlight them so people can see where the things are on the list.
So entering observation data, scrolling back with these blue arrows will show you past data. It will warn you if there are phenophases that have changed. That is just meaning we've gone back in and made more in-depth or clarified the questions for people who see that pop up and get concerned. So from the observation deck, one thing I want to show you, if you are interested in joining a group and you know the group near you, you already have a Nature's Notebook account and you want to associate yourself with the group, logged in from your observation deck, go over here to My Account Details, click that, you'll see your profile information as well as your partner groups, if any, listed here at the top. So you see my Tumamoc Hill group, but I want to add another one. There's several here in Tucson, as well as there may be some in your local area. You click Edit, you scroll down to the bottom. These are all of our partner groups. It's quite a long list, and you can click one if you see the one that you're interested in or that you know is close to you. I'm scrolling down to our Tucson Phenology Trail, and I'm going to be a part of our Biosphere 2. I know that we've got a great group out there, and the Tucson Botanical Garden. Clicking those, then scrolling down to the bottom of your page, seeing the list there, clicking Save, giving it a moment to load. All right, so then we go back to our observation deck. Scrolling down to the bottom, and we see our new sites added, the Biosphere and the Tucson Botanical Garden. Now I have access to their sites. I can enter observations at their already established site on their already established species list, the same method that I did before with my own personal site. So that's how you can contribute to a group that's in your area observing. All right, do we want to begin with questions?
Yeah, so let's see. A good question to start with here is about the Phenology calendar that you have right there, Sarah.
All right.
So Suzanne would like to know what my calendar shows and why or how it would be customized.
You can customize so if you've never adjusted your Phenology calendar before, the database goes through and randomly selects information that you have submitted observations on. So if you would like to customize your calendar, you can click that link and it brings you to an interface where you can select the site that you want to look at. So let's do My Sites, and let's click a site that you know you have data on. You can click an individual at your site, and then you can pick a phenophase that you're interested in looking at. So let's say I want to look at the leaves on my yellow palo verde, and then I say Add to Calendar. You can also do the years. Let's do 2015, and I don't think I have data from 2008. And then you can select, let's say I want to look at the yellow palo verde, and I want to look at the blue palo verde as well. And let's just stick with the leaves theme and go honey mesquite, leaves, Add to Calendar. So you have your 3 items here. You are only allowed 3 at a time. That's all our system can handle. And then say Create. It then goes to the database, finds all the information that you have entered on those select species and phenophases. Hopefully I have some data in there. And it may be taking so long to load because I don't have data on those individuals at those years.
While that's loading, why don't I just go ahead and answer a couple other questions?
Okay, let's do that.
Because it's 11:58 here in Tucson. So we have a question from Joel who says, you have expressed a preference for weekly observations. Would less frequent visits to the site be still valuable to you? Yes, any frequency of visits are perfectly fine with us. Again, people that are interested in looking at the data on the other side want to know what's happening with that plant through time. So it's more valuable if you can record things more frequently, but any frequency of observations is still perfectly fine to add to the observation deck. Let's see. A second question we have is from Wayne, who says, is this system okay to use for observations such as ice on and ice off of lakes, first return of bluebirds and migration, bird counts in backyard or traveling, etc.? Yes, I think the system is okay for the latter things that you mentioned. We don't ask for information about ice on or ice off, mostly because any of the researchers that are interested in using our data will be pulling that information from another database or another system, a climate database. But using that for the first return of bluebirds and bird counts in backyards or traveling in different sites, you can certainly travel and create a site wherever you go. That would be perfectly appropriate.
And there's also the comments section on each individual when you go to enter your data and you find a species and you say you saw a species interaction such as a bluebird, you are able to enter comments at the bottom.
Yep, so you could put that information in there so you have some metadata about what's happening at the time of your observation. We do have mobile apps that work with this as well. You can download that from the Google Play Store or the iTunes Store. And it's called Nature's Notebook. If you just search for that, it's a free app. It's going to look just, the interface is going to look just like what you see here on the data entry screen. Somebody's asking a question, Tina's asking a question about when she uploaded her app, it asks her to choose a network. Is that the same as group? Yes, that would be the same as group. And you should be able to tap on that network list if you've already created your information on the computer, and it should show your groups like Sarah's are showing in the observation deck. We recommend that if you're going to use the app that you do download or you do set it up on the computer first. It's a lot easier to set up your sites on the computer than it is to try to do it on the small phone or tablet screen. So if you get everything the way that you want it online, then you can go back, and when you download the app, it'll all be populated in there already. Megan wants to know if there is an international companion to Nature's Notebook. She says she's in the Caribbean and would love to input her collected information there. Right now, Nature's Notebook is not necessarily an international program. The only thing we're limited by is the species that are in the database. So if you have species that are in the database that are where you live, then you can certainly use Nature's Notebook to observe them. I'm not aware of an international program in the Caribbean at this time, but we do have other partner groups that are in several of the European countries who are creating similar phenology observation programs. So if that's something you're interested in, you can certainly email us and we can put you in touch with folks who work with our international network. Let's see, what else do we have? Did I miss any? Some of them I was typing the answers to. We had a question early on about creating a new account, so I answered that, I think, offline. I typed it in. But if you haven't created an account for Nature's Notebook, when you go to that homepage, nn.usa-npn.org, there's a link about halfway down to create a new account, and it just takes a couple minutes to do that. So just like anything online, it's going to ask you for a username and a password, and then you're on your way as soon as you do that. You'll also see a list of the partner groups that Sarah was just showing you, where you can join a group if there's one near you, and save your information at the bottom. If you did select a partner group, it shows up automatically in your observation deck, and then you can also create your own sites as well. Catherine had asked if you can remove a plant or animal that was incorrectly added, and the answer to that is yes. Once you add your plants and edit your plants, there's a box on that page to delete something, and then we ask a couple of questions about why you're deleting the plant or animal. We don't allow you to delete it completely from the database because there's still valuable data that are attached to that. And the same goes with a site. If you had created a site that you want to delete, we don't typically allow sites to be deleted because the data that's attached to that we want to remain in the database. But when you delete your plant or animal from the site, it stops showing up on your observation list, and then you can add a new one if you need to. Somebody else asked about native plants and animals. The only limitation that we have are the species that are on the species list. So some of them are native, some of them are invasive. So anything on the list you're free to observe. And as I said, we'll be adding some new plants in the next month or so that you can check back on the list if there's not something there. I am fairly certain that no matter where you are in the United States, you can find at least 5 to 7 plants or animals to observe that are local to your area. We do have campaigns that we are launching this year, and one of them is going to be an invasive species campaign. So as soon as we have information ready about the campaigns and how to get started and how to join that, then we will send out information to our observers newsletter and also our partners newsletter, so stay tuned for that. Let's see.
And here's the Join a Campaigns page from our homepage under the Observe tab. Join a campaign. This has a little bit more information as well as a map. We will be updating this shortly for spring with new campaigns to get involved in, so check back to this page. We have several campaigns already listed, so see what's available in your area.
So Sarah, why don't you put up the PowerPoint screen again with our contact information? And I think I have answered most of the questions. I see that there are still a couple of questions out there. What we usually do is we take these questions that people have asked and type up the answers and post all of this on our webinar page with the recording. So if your question didn't get answered, we can answer it now. I see there's a couple more coming in, and I don't want to have people hang on the line much longer if they are needing to go. But we'll answer all those questions for you, and you can certainly be in touch with any of us if you have a question. I'm going to be holding office hours for group leaders in the next month, I guess the next couple weeks. So that will be on the webinar page. You can sign up to do that, and that's a time where I will just specifically be answering questions like this. I won't be presenting any content, so we'll have a whole hour for people to just come and ask a question if they need to, or if they have something that they are confused about. I'm happy to do that. So I guess with that, thank you all for participating with us this morning. Sorry about all of the technical difficulties, but hopefully you at least got a nice overview of what Nature's Notebook is and a nice refresher if you had already participated in this before. And if there are any resources or any questions that you have, certainly send them to us. If you want us to highlight something else or you have an idea for another webinar, please send that our way and we will consider it in the list of webinars for this season.
We appreciate you and your use of Nature's Notebook. Happy observing.
Thank you.